Welcome back to the weird and the wonderful with Strange Bones. That's me. And as we get started, we're just going to wait for a few more people to join. HBJ and Dami MV and Pungulum Ebo. Welcome. Always good to see new people joining in. So today is the second half of our chat about the fairy around the world. Welcome to user 379681 and all the rest of the numbers which I can never remember. It's good to see you guys on. I hope you're having a wonderful evening. I am Adam. Welcome. So, as we are getting started, I'm going to remind you that our methodology is to find a theme or a topic and then go around the world and look at the different countries and cultures to see if they are vastly different or very similar. It tends to be supernatural or paranormal, doesn't have to be, it can just be weird. We do like weird, as you probably well know. Welcome. And Rose as well. And as we go around, we are not necessarily going to either promote or deride anything that we find. It's just the things that people of the different cultures do say. We might agree, we might disagree, but we don't necessarily have to go either way. But one thing that we never do is, I've got a cat calling, we are never rude. It might not be your beliefs, but it might be somebody's beliefs. So we take it as is. And we go along with what we find. And while some things might entirely be mere stories to some, to others they can possibly be very real. So we are respectful of that, and respect is very important on this particular live. We have only one rule, and that is don't be rude. If you are rude or disruptive, then we will give you the boot. We don't allow that. We have a lot of different people from all over the world that like to follow the channel, so there is absolutely no need to insult anybody in that regard. But with that, your opinion is yours and you are welcome to it. Hey Jay, you are more, thank you for the share. You are more than welcome to have your opinion, and you are welcome even to comment your opinion, even though we will say do so politely. Welcome to Viaro and Sanelli. All we ask is that you realize we do this for the curiosity of it and the interest of learning more, and for the sheer enjoyment of finding different things out. But do comment. Comment lots. Give your opinion. We always enjoy comments. And make sure as well to like, share, subscribe. Do all of the good things to support the channel, because that's how we keep things going. Do I clash? I'm not entirely sure what you are asking me there, Vero. Explain a little. But yes, absolutely. Remember that the support of the channel relies on you, so do all of these things that help out the algorithms. And Clash Royale, I don't know what that is. I am now quite curious. Do tell more. But yeah, as I say, make sure that you show the support. Now, we started in the last live with the fairy, and we got halfway through with varying forms, and we found that most interestingly, it's all around the world. And the weird part is not the differences at all. The weird part is the fact that though the ideas and stories come from cultures before people really started mixing up and visiting different countries and things, so wouldn't have been really influenced initially by other cultures, they are nevertheless descriptions that, despite different names, come out very, very much the same, which seems to imply a collective understanding, which might maybe imply that not all of the stories are as story as people say they are. There might indeed be some truth to some of these things, and we shall find out as we go along. And do give your opinion. I don't know what the rest of you guys think. Do you believe in the fairy? Now, we have discovered already that there are a great many different kinds, but there are certain key elements that we can at least say. Thank you for the sharing there, Reese. They fit to certain things. Thank you for the comment as well. So, in general, people make a distinction between the fairy and spirits or ghosts or demons or anything like that. From where am I? I am from Southern Africa. And my age is ancient. Nevertheless, we find them to be beings which are supposed to inhabit some kind of parallel dimension, though it's not clear exactly what that is necessarily. What am I talking about? I'm talking about the mythologies of the fairy all around the world, and exactly what the fairy might be. So the different kinds of them all inhabit some kind of parallel world in that regard, though exactly what it is might be different. They are all said to be quite magical and enchanting in some manner or form. And Kala has broken the rule, and unfortunately that means block, report, goodbye, because we don't allow rude at all. I'm afraid we do not permit that on this channel. You can disagree, you can say that it is not something you believe in, but when you start using foul language or more, that's when we put the boot. So I'm afraid all of that caused removal. There has been, I regret to say, a number of very hateful people that have turned up on the channel and been very, very rude. In the last live, in fact, we had someone, I don't know if it was real or simulated, doing the whole sexual content, and we booted them and reported them very fast. No idea who they were, they've never been on before, but did not appreciate and did not approve. So in that regard, they got the boot. So we have low tolerance these days, I'm afraid. Thank you for the follow there, Alpha Gone Wild. You know, Redbeard, Roybart, I still actually don't know what 6-7 is. I've come across it on TikTok on occasion and never really looked. I have no idea what it is. So it's obviously a trend, but it's not one that I've had anything to do with. Nevertheless, as we move along with that, let's carry on from where we were last. And we had gotten to the point of talking about the British view of fairy, the Fae, if you will. And we had spoken of a number of them, such as pixies and brownies and more. The varying kinds most of which have been ignored by modern stories, actually. Most of us know fairies only in the form of Tinkerbell from Disney, which is kind of sad because they are far more varied and far more interesting and far more glamorous in that regard. Their ability to enchant is quite wonderful, but do remember that enchantment means control of your mind. They are terrific, but do remember that the root of terrific is terror. And the older stories, the pre-modern ones that weren't made nice for the kiddies, were far more awful in a great many ways. The fairy stories, such as they are originally often more warnings than they are entertainment. So it's quite interesting. They live in their own realm, quite literally, though they can come into ours. They are known to be mischievous and like to play tricks on people. They can be helpful, they can be malevolent. It does depend. They are said to enjoy stealing people away, especially children and babies, for whatever strange reasons, which is quite interesting in that sort of view of them. But there's always a certain amount, a little bit of mischief. But if you don't offer them the correct respect in that regard, they can get nasty. So some might clean your house and make everything good, and if you are not respectful thereof, they will wreck your house. So sometimes the Disney versions are just a little too sweet. A wonderful example is how beautiful and wonderful unicorns are, which are of course a kind of fairy creature. But remember, as in any of the animal world, horns are there for combat and defense. So maybe not quite as sweet as you thought. They're often, of course, connected to nature, which they protect, sometimes quite fiercely. So you have all of that. They are known to be quite merry when they wish to, and to love music and dance. But it's an interesting kind of thing, especially when you realize almost every country and culture has them in their mythology in some form or another. Most of the mythology proving to be very, very similar. And while the names change, the things don't. So with that said, the Fae, the fairy, who or what? Well, the Irish fairy we've been talking about, which includes the Ail Shee and the Down Maith, which follow another interesting commonality in a lot of different places, where you never speak of them by their true name, because that will attract them and maybe anger them. So they're always referred to as the good people, the beautiful ones, the friendly ones, possibly in the hope that they will be, because you don't want them not to be. The Alshi, as we said, are the descendants of the Tuatha De Danann, the children of Danu, which moved across to Great Britain after losing a war against the Milesians, and they fled to take up residence in the British Isles, which implies that while their realm might be parallel to ours, it nevertheless seems to have, in a certain degree at least, a similar geography. So, they are all vaguely humanoid at the very least, or animal in shape, though they can take any shape they like and change their size. And in fact, the modern image of the tiny winged Tinkerbell-like ones are a departure from traditional folklore, except, of course, among the children of Anun, which we will get to. And in the original kind, those little ones were amongst the worst, because in true horrific fashion, they're enchanting, they're beautiful, they're amazing, and they drink blood. So just remember, be careful of the fairy. Now, they are neither good nor evil as such, but they may change dependent on how they are treated or how they feel. They live in mounds or barrows, by and large, world over, or within the trees and plants themselves. And they are absolutely supernatural, and they have all kinds of games and amusements and music, which they are said to be very, very good at. Now, we went through a number of the Irish fairy, and we won't go through the individual ones again, but many of them are ones which we know very well: the leprechauns, the banshee, and the changelings, of course. But to speak on them, we have to say how to interact with them, so to speak. And first of all, the best answer is avoid them. Most beliefs surrounding the fairy seem to revolve around appeasing them and keeping away. You should respect them and be civil, because they can be very cruel if they are mistreated. We know that certain places belong to them, and you should always be very careful around those specific places, be they mounds or circles of mushrooms in the grounds, and similar like that. User 4640, welcome, welcome, welcome. We know that there are certain objects that are important, and you can protect yourself if you carry them. Iron and salt are the chief among them, possibly ash as well, though that depends. But cold-forged iron seems to be something they cannot stand, and salt as well. Sometimes you should give them offerings, and many customs seem to imply they like milk and honey for some reason. So that's your Irish fairy of the Alshi, the remnants. Alshi, by the way, simply means the people of the Shi, the fairy, the Gaelic word for fairy. So you will find echoes between the Irish and the Scottish, of course, but the Welsh have got a slightly different version, and they speak not of the children of Danu, the Tuatha De Danann, but rather the children of Annwn. And Annwn is both the fairy realm ruled by Arun, but also it's the realm of the dead. They are a darker fairy. The Tuatha are known as the children of the light court, beautiful, wonderful, bright, whereas the children of Annwn are the fairy of the dark court, and they are quite different in that regard. A darker, more frightening, but perhaps a great deal more honest, if you will, than the children of the light court. Now, again, what's interesting, the separation of the two courts. AW, hello. The separation of the two courts is echoed in a number of other countries and cultures as well. So, the name Annwn probably comes from the Old Welsh Gaelic, meaning very deep, which implies that it's somewhere way below the underworld, such as it is. And we know as well, and we will get to in our lives, the varying realms and levels in different countries and cultures. But with that said, exactly where is it? Somewhere underneath the world, underneath this world. And in the first branch, which is a story in the Mabinogion, it implies that Annwn is a land somewhere within Wales, which would have been called Dyfed or Dafydd. And we know in the Arthurian poem, Priesu Annwn, it suggests an island location. Now, two otherworldly feasts occur within the second branch of the Mabinogion, which is located in the Harlech in northwest Wales on Ynys Gaelis, southwest Pembrokeshire. So maybe there is a specific place that is that. And certainly if you look at the different fairy groups around the world, it implies that they have their own kingdoms and places. So maybe each has their own little realm. Caer Sidi is a fortress wherein the cauldron of Annwn is to be found, and the chair of Taliesin, both of whom were, Taliesin, the bard, and the cauldron were very important in some of the old stories. And of course it was where Gwir, the one that went to find the cauldron, amongst other things, was imprisoned. We know that there is also Caer Waidir, the glass fortress, guarded by 1,000 people whose watchman was very difficult to converse with. There is Caer Pedaivan, the four-cornered fortress. For those of you who don't know Gaelic, Welsh Gaelic, Caer just means fortress or castle. So Caer Pedaivan means the castle of four corners, and that's located on the Isle of the Strong Door. There's mention of Caer Fedwyd, the fortress of revelry or drunkenness, and apparently the fairy do like their drink quite a lot. Caer Fandwi, the fortresses of God's Peak. Caer Rigor, the fortress of hardness, and Ker Golud, the fortress of riches. So different places spoken of as being quite important. Now, Anun plays a fairly prominent role in the four branches, which is a set of four interlinked mythological tales from the Mabinogion. The first branch of the Mabinogion is entitled Paul, Prince of David, and the eponymous prince offends Arawn, the ruler of Anun, by baiting his hounds on a stag that Arawn's dogs had brought down. And in recompense, he exchanges places with Arawn for a year and defeats Arawn's army, Halligan, while Arawn rules in his stead in Dafid. Now, during this year, Paul abstains from sleeping with Arawn's wife, earning himself the gratitude and friendship from Arawn. On his return, Paul becomes known by the title Pen-Anun, or the ruler of Anun. In the fourth branch, Arun is mentioned but does not appear, and it's revealed that he sent a gift of otherworldly pigs to Paul's son and successor, Pirideri, which ultimately leads to war between Dafid and Gwyneth. Pigs are quite important in Welsh mythology for varying reasons, for some reason. In the mythological poem Cad Godu, or Gotho, there is a battle between Gwyneth and the forces of Anun, led again by Arawn, or Arun. And it's revealed that Amathon, nephew to Math, king of Gwyneth, stole a dog, a bird, and a buck from the otherworld, leading to a war between the two peoples. The denizens of Anun are depicted as bizarre and hellish creatures, which include a wide-mawed beast with 100 heads and bearing a host beneath the root of its tongue, which is fairly scary right off. And another under its neck, 100-clawed, black-groined toad, and a mottled, ridged serpent with 1,000 souls by their sins tortured in the folds of its flesh, which sounds truly monstrous. Gwythian, the Venedolian hero and magician, successfully defeats Arun's army, first by enchanting the trees to rise up and fight, and then by guessing the name of the enemy hero, Bran, thus winning the battle. So, an interesting set of tales about the elfish types in Wales. Now, there are varying stories as well about people connected to the fairy realm. Taliesin the Bard and great sorcerer who taught Merlin of Arthurian legend is said to have connections with Anun. And of course we know that he received for his gift of poetry, he got the ability from a magic cauldron, which was said to actually belong to Anun. Now, many of the different stories that come out of this, and we can't go into all of them, of course, because we are sticking to what we're talking about with the different fairies, but nevertheless, they're described sufficiently for us to compare them to other countries and cultures. And we know they've influenced modern stuff hugely. Our modern view of elves which we mostly get through Tolkien, let's be fair, absolutely comes from the Irish, Scottish and Welsh ideas. And we know that in Tolkien's stories, Sindarian, the Elvish language, is phonologically inspired by Welsh. And in fact, Sindarin means west or sunset, which implies the blessed land beyond the sea. We know that he also used several other words in this regard. So the Sindarianese word for king is Aran, which he took from Arun, who was, of course, the king of Anun. So clearly we see it's affected a great deal in that regard, both modern and ancient, and it makes for very interesting reading. If you can handle the rather old-fashioned language in it, I would certainly advise reading some of the old books like the Mabinogion. But if it's a bit hard, read the Chronicles of Prydain by Lloyd Alexander, which might be a little bit easier to read in that regard, because it can get fairly tough. But it's affected so much, including video games and all kinds of other things. Now, there are a whole collection of other stories to look at, but we are going to skip over the various ones for now, because we need to go to Germany. And of course, the German view is quite a mix of things. Like the Welsh, they tend to be a lot more dark than the Irish and Scottish versions, but they vary. You have a whole collection of them. Elves, for absolutely, are fundamental to Germanic mythology, and they are beautiful and magical, but not necessarily good. But you also get the Zwerg, which are dwarves. And it seems that our view of dwarfs absolutely comes from the Germanic in that regard. We know that they also have a number of interesting creatures that echo those in other places. So the boot cat, or house kobold, is a domestic fairy just like the English brownie. And the Holzeibel, which are like the dryads of British mythology. So definitely similarities. We also do know that they have, especially around the Schwarzenwald. Mickey Mew, welcome. Glad to see you have joined at last. The Schwarz are quite dangerous versions of a dryad or a Holzeibel. All of them are female, and if you're female, you're okay. But if you're male, they can be quite nasty if you go into the woods at night especially, but even during the day. Of course, the Black Forest is called so because it's quite dark. How are you, Mickey Mew?
Okay, thank you. And yourself?
Good, good, good. Glad to see you are around. You have not missed anything but the updates till now. And we've just started on the Germanic.
Sorry, no, I was just making coffee and left.
Oh, you've got to make coffee. That's not something to apologize for at all. How would we live without coffee, do you think?
Yeah, I don't know.
No, I don't
Very
know
sad.
either. Very, very sad. Interestingly enough, it's a fairly modern thing for most of the world. I know that it was known in the South Americas way back when, but for the rest of us, not at all. So, interesting. People did survive, though I don't know how.
Crazy.
So, yeah. Now, most of our understanding of the Germanic fairies, which, as I say, are fairly dark, we get because of the collection of stories that was gathered by the linguists and folklorists, shall we call them? The two brothers that collected all the stories up, and of course we know the tales as the Brothers Grimm's fairy tales. If it wasn't for the two brothers, much of it could very probably have been lost.
Yeah.
So one of the interesting things which also comes up in almost all fairy stories is made most famous in the modern world by the Germanic view of fairies, and that's the Erlking. The Erlking ultimately is the king of the fairies, at least in Germany, but particularly also is the leader of the wild hunt, which is when the elves ride out, and what they hunt might very, very, very well be you. But you see that in a lot of other countries and cultures as well. So it's now, of course, in the modern day, something which has spread and influenced. So you will find versions of the Erlking spoken of where really and truly it would have been somebody else. When the wild hunt rode among the Tuatha De Danaan, it would have been led by Lu. And if you know anything about the pagan festivals like Samhain and Beltane and such, you'll know that one of the festivals is Lunasa, which is, of course, named for the god that it celebrates, which is Lu Argetlam, Lu of the silver hand. And he is most important because cold iron can harm a fairy, and he lost his arm in battle to an iron sword, which meant he simply could not heal himself back as fairies can. Spooky Streamers thought, welcome, welcome, welcome. It seems all of the usual suspects are popping on. That's rather cool. So what he did is forge himself an entire new arm, which of course through fairy magic worked, but most importantly, because he had a silver arm, he could use it to hold and wield cold iron, which meant he could have a sword of iron to use against other fairy. How are you, Spooky?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Yeah, not too shabby at all. Seems the crew is all on board, which is pretty lekker.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we're doing the second half of the fairy, and we are touching on the Germanic fairy and on the Erlking, Erlkönig, sometimes known as the Alderking, connecting him to an alder tree. And one wonders why specifically an alder tree, possibly because of connections to the old Germanic Futhark, which are the Germanic runes, the original Chthonic runes, which had 24 symbols, and in some versions a 25th blank rune or weird rune. We do need to remember, of course, that weird in the modern world means strange, but weird in the old sense meant fate or the possible future or things that will or might come. And unlike in the modern view where fate will happen and has to happen, in the old view, if you knew how, you could change fate. And that, of course, was the power of the sorcerer. And why many heroes had to go and find help from witches and sorcerers and things when on a quest to ensure that they could change their weird. So, I got none of that at all. I'm wondering if I'm going deaf in my old age.
I didn't hear
I
it.
said when visiting fairy, I get Tinkerbell.
Okay, so Tinkerbell, of course, is very, very much a Disneyfied fairy in that regard. Not the kind of fairy that really comes from any of the general cultures. It turns up among the children of Anun, which are the children of the Welsh god of death and fairy. And in
A single
that...
word fairy. Single word fairy, and I get Tinkerbells.
Yes, because that's the modern view of fairies. But the originals look nothing like that. And those little Tinkerbell fairies were known especially for their ability to enchant you and control your mind and such, and for drinking blood. So they weren't the cute kind. And if you read the original story of Peter Pan by J.M. Barrie, you realize that Tinkerbell is actually quite nasty and even homicidal, which, of course, in the Disney version got cleaned out very quickly.
But not completely, because she was like plotting against Wendy. She really actually wanted her dead
Yes,
when she like
in
sold her
the
out to the.
in the proper story, she actually tries to poison her.
Yeah, but also she tried to drown. Was it?
Drown her, poison her, have her taken by
Mhm.
Captain Hook, and I think there was a fourth way as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't trust fairies.
Mm.
Especially not fairies in hats, as we've discovered. Red hats symbolize something quite dark.
Yeah. No, they don't like me at all.
No, they don't.
Because I never got a dime underneath my pillow.
You see? And I've lost a great many teeth, but never received anything for it. I'm with you on there. They don't like me neither.
I didn't have a fairy took my teeth out of a mouse.
Oh, okay, that's different.
Afrikaans say that tannemeis.
Tannemeis.
Tannemeis, yeah.
That's pretty cool.
I used to leave my dad would put a little piece of cheese in the shoe and cheese. So,
And hopefully you found it in time and it didn't sit there for a very, very long time, slowly going.
no, he ate the cheese, but he always left a few crumbs. So funny.
That's actually really cool. I like the idea of a mouse far more than a fairy, which is quite creepy. I saw a post the other day which has no basis in any mythology, but really tickled the fancy, that the tooth fairy is the smaller, nicer version of the bone fairy.
Oh, great.
The bone fairy. I don't think I've heard about the bone fairy before.
It was just a meme, and they had the pictures for it. So you've got this cute little fairy hauling off a tooth, and in the next picture you got this sort of giant skeletal, fire-wrapped, awful fairy with bone wings and fangs and horns.
Oh.
And I
Scared.
thought it was just a really good meme.
If you want to watch a really good horror about tooth fairies, you should watch Darkness Falls. That
Okay.
was brilliant.
Well,
Absolutely brilliant.
somebody pointed out the one day, have you ever wondered why the tooth fairy wants the teeth? And in original mythology, to have a piece of somebody, be it hair or a tooth or anything, meant that you could use it to curse them, which makes it really quite terrifying.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I got you the right information now. So,
Okay.
yeah, fairies, which are gnomes, goblins.
Yes.
We've got elves
Yes.
and some words I don't know how to pronounce. I think one is dryads.
Dryads are tree fairy. They are bound to a specific tree and they live in the forests.
Gemininos.
Daimonios. That's where you start getting influences from Christianity, where they basically, because these were all considered real and part of normal religion before Christianity. But once Christianity came in, they basically said all of that are demons and anything to do with them is evil and worshipping Satan.
But what is a knocker?
Okay, now knockers are interesting. You get them in levels. A knocker in the basic level will move around your house at night and you can hear it knocking on walls and things, but it's a kind of brownie that will look after your house for you. You also get them in mines, and while they are happy with you, shall we say, they will knock on the mines to tell you where the good stuff is to mine and to warn you if there's going to be a collapse in the mine. It's when that they feel they are not respected, or if you anger them, that things go bad, and they change from knockers into chuckers, ones that throw rocks at you. And these rocks might, dependent on how upset they are with you, range from little ones up to full-sized boulders.
I was looking at something last night after we spoke about the Tommy knockers.
Tommy knockers are a version.
Yeah, but there's a movie Stephen
Yes.
King wrote it, Tommy knockers, but it's actually aliens he was talking about.
Yes, Stephen
That's
King's
good.
stories he definitely did modify.
Yeah, it wasn't they.
But the original name, Tommy Knockers, comes from
Yeah.
the Knockers. So, absolutely.
What is a greenie?
Spell it?
Greenies. It's greenies.
They probably refer to a number of water fairy, which includes things like...
Greenies, also called as moss people and
Yes.
flying leaves.
So that they wear clothing made of moss and leaves. They're a tiny little gnome-like creature, and when they roll themselves up, they just appear to be a moss-covered boulder. They live in the forests. And if you've seen the Disney movie Brave,
Oh yes,
Was
the
it
bow and
Brave?
arrow.
yeah, I think it was Brave, where they had the rock people. Was it Brave? Or was it one of the Frozen?
I think it was Frozen.
It was
yeah.
Frozen, you're right. Those are moss people, the greenies. They're a guardian of the forests and things.
And Nixon sounds like a nice name.
Nixies or Nixen are in fact water spirits. They are generally, though, fresh water rather than salt water. So salt waters are like mermaids, whereas the Nixies are fresh water, and they don't generally have fishy tails, though they can often shapeshift when they want to. And they often like to drown people. So yes,
Yeah.
you get a lot of different kinds of fairies. And as I say, the Erlking is the German king of the elves, just as Lu Argetlam is the king of the Tuatha De Danann, and Arun is the king of the Welsh fairy. So it seems they have specific kingdoms that they are kings of, each with their own leader, but they nevertheless are all described much the same, which is an interesting fact, given that some of the cultures are so far from each other. So
Yeah, I see even giants are fairies.
arguable. You see some cultures lump all supernatural beings together. So the Japanese, for example, are very difficult to figure out what they would call a fairy, because all supernatural beings are yokai. You might argue that the kitsune, for example, are actually fairies. But certainly ghosts, which are also yokai, are not fairy. Now,
I also want to say every mythical creature is a fairy.
yeah, no, that's definitely not the case. I would argue that quite severely, and many of the cultures make a serious distinction. We know among the Nordic cultures you have the Alfar, which are fairy, and you have the Jotun, which are giants. The two are not the same at all. So there's absolutely a difference there. Spirits are also mentioned differently. Spirits are spirits, ghosts are ghosts, demons are demons, and fairy are fairy. They're not all the same kind of thing.
There's an odd creature, a ballybog.
A bullywog, yes. That one I think comes from Cornwall, doesn't it?
I don't know, but it turns into a frog.
Yes. Quite a few of the water type fairy are shapeshifters into frogs. Cats are another favorite. Things that can get into places without you realizing that they are there, or making any particular notice of it. But once they're in, they're in. So yeah, you've got different versions in that regard. Ballywogs, gallyhops, or all the froggy type ones. So you definitely do get a varied selection. And there are a great many stories about each of them, which leads up to the most famous for modern people, where you will meet the Germanic Errol King, which of course is in Andrzej Sapkowski's The Witcher. Whether you've watched the movies or played the games, you will know that the Errol King is the leader of the Wild Hunt in that. So, yeah. And he orchestrates the imprisonment of Cyrilla, your other important character in The Witcher. If you've never read the books, they are really, really, really good and well worth watching. And I was
interested, but never got to it.
I would. They are actually better than the movies. And the movies were damned good. I really enjoyed the books. So,
I think I started watching it, but then I switched it off because I didn't like the dragon's mouth didn't move.
Whose mouth?
I don't know. I think it was The Witcher.
Probably.
I think it's a series, right?
It is. But it's a pretty good one. Now, moving to North America, we are going to talk about the Joga, the drum dancers. And these are quite literally the little people in Iroquois lore, usually invisible, as most fairy are. They can be seen when they want to be, and you can tell when they're around. So if you hear drumming with no drummers around, that's them. They also leave rings of bare earth, and these sort of earthen bowls in stones or mud are where you should leave offerings that keep them happy. They explain the disembodied lights seen at night and bad luck, and when people see them, usually children or spiritual healers, they're described as knee-high, maximum around 4 feet, which is just about 1.25 meters tall. They love games and playing tricks and feasting, but they can be very dangerous if disrespected. Just like all of the kobolds and brownies and from the rest of the world, they can cause illnesses when they're really upset. And you shouldn't build in places that belong to them, because that will be bad. They are, however, divided into different groups, and you asked about knockers. Well, the first group are the Gahongas, which are the stone throwers, and they like to live in rocky areas, and they like playing catch, and sometimes they play it with people, but they cheat, because they don't just throw stones, they will fling boulders. Then you have the Gandaya, who care for the plants of an area, helping it to grow and making it yield well.
Do you use Wikipedia?
I use a lot of different things when I make up my notes.
Because I'm here in America, on Wikipedia,
Yes,
they show Yakshuri,
yes, we spoke of them
stick
in the last...
Indians,
Yes, which are used to warn you of the fairy.
a Pukwiji.
Pakwaji, we haven't got to that yet. They come from the north part of North America. But yes, these particular fairies from the Iroquois often disguise themselves, if you will, as robins or owls, and they love strawberries. And the last version of them, if you will, are the Odaus, which are the subterranean guardians of the world. They protect it from creatures of the underworld that spread disease and chaos, as we know from the tales of the white buffalo. The Odau come from the underground at night to dance in the moonlight and hunt any underworld creatures that have escaped. And to help with this task, fingernails were left as offerings to them, so that the creatures knew what the Odau smelled like, but they could use the fingernails to disguise their scent so that the bad creatures wouldn't know who they were, which sounds a little weird and a bit dodgy. I wouldn't leave any body parts lying around for the fairy, personally. That's just me. But there you have that. The Moon-Eyed people of the Cherokee are a lot like the Joga of the Iroquois. They are very short, again, very pale-skinned people with blue eyes that are sensitive to sunlight, and so they live nocturnally. And the stories don't only come from the Cherokee, but interestingly, a number of European settlers describe a conflict that occurred between them and the Cherokee, who eventually drove them out. There is no specific archaeological evidence, they say, but the legend seems to be that they built structures of certain kinds within the Appalachian regions. They may or may not be bearded creatures. They have quite large eyes, which is why they were called moon-eyed, and they lived underground because of their issue with the sunlight. And apparently they lived among this area before even the Cherokee moved in. But according to the stories, they were ambushed by the Creek Cherokee on a bright full moon night, slaughtering most of them and driving them out, which seems a bit unkind. Why they did this is not entirely certain. But yeah, that's the moon-eyed people. So, are they there? Well, who's to say? There were people in the Appalachians before the Cherokee, and we don't know exactly what they were like. So maybe it was the moon-eyed people. Now, among the Cherokee as well, you have and I think the Navajo as well, you have the Nanahe. Now, the Nanahe are a race of elf-like people which are described almost exactly the way the English describe or the Irish rather, I suppose we're going to be specific, describe the Tuatha De Danann, beautiful, eternal, unless specifically killed, known as the Immortals, which is what Nunahee means, a kind of supernatural human being that, again, are specifically distinct from nature spirits or gods or ghosts, and different as well from the Yunwi Tsunzi, the little people. These are a large, slightly taller than human type of being, which are very benevolent, can travel vast distances in the briefest of moments, and absolutely are magical with all kinds of powers. They liked the high mountain peaks where no timber grew, and they say that you could hear them singing, dancing, and drumming at night. But if you went there, it would seem to either move or come from behind the rock of the mountain itself, so you could never quite get there. But there are brief occasions where they have been said, at least, to invite you to feasts. They are very much into their music and dance, just like the Cherokee. And some say that sometimes the women would come down and dance and party with the Cherokee men. And the Cherokee women did not like that very much. But we know that these people could just disappear where they wanted to. Now, the Nunahee were very friendly by and large and were very helpful. And they would take people who are lost to safety or to a warm place until they are rested. And stories about this abound, including one famous one about a man named Yahula who got separated from a hunting party, and his friends searched for him for a long time but eventually had to give up, and they went back grieving, believing him dead. But the Nunahee found Yahula and brought him back to their house, and he lived with them and became immortal and lived for a long time until he began to miss his friends and family. So he went back to his village and told them what happened. And they asked Yahula to eat dinner with them, and he said he could not because he had eaten the food of the Nunahi and never again could he eat human food. And he could only visit for short times, but must return. But while he would visit for short times, he left and never came back forever. Yes, sir.
Pointing finger, yeah, that's a question. So that's in America.
Yes, the Cherokee Indians.
Can you tell me what year that was?
Pre-white folk getting there.
Okay. So it was a recorded history
Yes, from
from their side, even though they didn't have paper or anything. It
they
was word
kept
of
them
mouth.
in word of mouth stories.
Because I can see the most fairies comes from European, but that's probably because they were very good at recording history and sharing information than everybody else.
Well, the Asian countries have fairies as well, and they go back a long time as well.
Yeah, but not as many as Europeans.
No, I'd say further in some cases.
Oh, I've got a list here.
So it does depend, of course. But there are versions that come from, I think it's around 10,000 BC from the Persians.
Australia has the Mimi and Minyunu.
Mimi. Mimi are awesome. Wind spirits and little fairies. But yes, they
Only
do
a few from
indeed.
Australia.
I beg your pardon?
But where's Africa? Doesn't Africa have fairies?
We do. We did those right in the beginning on yesterday's live. We do have fairy, and they are described, by and large, almost exactly the same as the European fairy. And they predate, again, white people arriving.
Okay.
Which may mean something, and maybe it doesn't.
Yeah. Now Africa is actually wild and so much history lost because there are infrastructure in Africa, even here in southern tip of Africa.
Oh, yes.
It dates back thousands of years.
And the problem part is we don't
All
know
lost.
who built all of it. Oh, we think we know, but really we don't. Because like many of these ancient structures, the people that built it aren't around anymore. Somehow the technology vanished. And you wonder why.
The Bantu came and killed them all.
Possibly.
And then they ran back home.
Possibly.
And then they came back again.
Could be. It's very hard to say. But yes, you're right. And one theory, at least one that is put forward by the Cherokee, is that many of these things were built by the Nunahi. And they retreated to their other world because people got too close and there were too many. So maybe they're right. It's very hard to say. There are stories how the Cherokee were attacked by the Nikwasi, a tribe that was very powerful that came, I think, from the south of where they are now. And they looked like they would overpower the Cherokee, but the Nunahi turned up and fought on the Cherokee's behalf, beating this other tribe and saving the Cherokee. So, who's to say? They also have legends, at least, of the Nunahi fighting alongside Confederate soldiers in the American Civil War. So, is it true? Well, somebody turned up that was seen by a number of soldiers on both sides that fought with the Confederates and then disappeared. And the Cherokee that were fighting with the Confederates said, no, didn't you know? That was the Nanahi. They claim, I couldn't manage to get any real proof, but there's an abandoned Nanahi house somewhere near the Cherokee town of Tugalu, which is kind of like an old ruin, a deep depression cut in, waist deep into the ground, always clean. It never gets dirty. And often travelers would throw things into the depression, but when they came back, everything that they threw in would have been thrown out again. And the Cherokee say that's because it's the house of the Nanahi, and you don't throw things in because it will upset the Nanahi. But eventually, after a certain amount of time, some of the rocks did stay in, and the Cherokee said, yeah, well, you've thrown them in too much, and you've annoyed the Nanahi with your white ways, and so they've abandoned that townhouse. Is it true? Don't know.
Probably not. Because I just discovered I can create a fairy right now.
Oh, and how do you do
And I
that?
can even post it on Wikipedia.
How do you create a fairy?
Just use your imagination.
Well, I suppose you could.
Yeah.
Well, you asked about the Pukwudgie. Now, the Pukwudgie is a human-like creature from the Wampanoag folklore found in Delaware and Prince Edward Island, parts of Indiana and Massachusetts. And like a great many around the world, they are a small creature between 2 and 3 feet tall, so about a meter tall, really. According to legend, they can appear and disappear at will, like all fairy, shapeshift, which most commonly is into a creature that looks a bit like a porcupine from the back and a troll-like creature from the front when it walks upright. They sometimes will lure people to their death. They do use magic and have poison arrows, which is interesting because so do the fairy in Britain. Yes.
Does all fairies have magic?
Pretty much, yeah. According to all the cultures and the research I've done, they all do. It's one of the things about the fairy.
And that makes them mystical.
Yes.
Okay.
They can also, however, create spontaneous fires, which is a bit dangerous. Now, once upon a time, according to the local Wampanoag, Pukwudgies were friendly to humans, but they turned on them for some reason and are now best left alone. According to law, a person annoyed a Pukwudgie and would then be subject to nasty tricks or being followed, and then the Pukwudgie will cause them as much trouble as possible. Like a great many fairy stories, they are known to kidnap people, push them off cliffs, attack them with short knives and spears, and use sand to blind their victims. So they are often said to be the enemies of great heroes. So in Wampanoag folklore, they used tormenting and mischief out of jealousy against the natives because of the devotion and affection of the natives for Mausop, which was one of their godlike beings. And Mousehop then exiled them to different parts of North America. And since then, the Pukwudgies don't like humans. And as revenge, they killed all of Mousehop's children. So they're apparently nasty.
So,
What are you dropping there, spooky sir?
It was the phone. I was grabbing a box.
I have done that way too often. My phone has got more cracks than a drug house, but there you go.
the funniest thing I've done is hold my phone like this, the next minute I drop it onto my face.
Oh, I've done that as well.
Knock myself out.
I was watching some advert thing or another that I was doing, and I should never lie down. If I lie down, I'll sleep. And I was lying down watching it, and I fell asleep and dropped the phone on my face and gave myself such a shock. I was like, jumped up. I was such an idiot. There are many days when I can be quite stupid, I'm afraid. Now, the next one for you, which is an interesting one, and that's the Menehune. Now, they are Hawaiian fairies, and they live in the deep forests and hidden valleys in the Hawaiian Islands, and they don't like people at all. They are excellent craft people, like many dwarfs are said to be. They build temples of great beauty, fish ponds, roads, canoes, houses, and some of these structures that Hawaiians say were built by the Menehune still exist, and you can go and see them. Now, according to the local tribal Hawaiians, they say that the Menehune lived before settlers came to Polynesia many centuries ago. And when we say settlers, we are not talking white settlers. We're talking what we now consider to be the natives when they came as settlers. So the Menehune apparently come from way, way, way back. Just like a lot of fairies, they only appear during the night hours to build their masterpieces. And if they fail to complete it in one night, they will leave it unoccupied. No one but their children and humans connected to them can actually see the Menehune, unless they particularly want it that way. Like a great deal of fairies, they are able to command nature and are connected to nature. They're a pygmy people. Now, some say they were actually a real pygmy-style people that lived there before anybody else came, that lived in caves and things, but were craftsmen, and eventually they died out for whatever reason. Could that be a case, or could they have been fairy? I suppose it's very, very difficult to really give any kind of answer to that. We know that there were settlers that came into Hawaii and then into Tahiti, and the Tahitian settlers also speak of the Menehune, but apparently the Tahitian settlers were not good, and the Menehune fled. They say that in the last 1820 census that was done in Kauai by Kamulaili, who was the ruling, king kind of thing of the island, in their census, 65 people are actually listed who are said to be Menehune. So apparently They considered them just to be people that lived alongside them, and they considered them to be a kind of elf. It's a strange thing that very often people will then tell you, oh no, it's just mythology, but in the stories, they're treated just like any other person, just slightly different. So, I don't know, it's an interesting thing. Now, you said Australian, and the first of the Australian fairies are the Mimi. They are a kind of fairy-like creatures found especially around northern Australia and Arnhem Land.
I'm still stuck on Hawaii. How the hell did they get there?
Well, if they were fairy and they can travel the straight tracks as fairies are said to be able to
I'm
do,
talking about people. I mean,
that's a lot
they're
harder.
So lucky.
Well,
They're so lucky that they found it, because they would have probably died, and because they're in the middle of nowhere. Closest place was like 3,000 kilometers away.
Closest place would have been South America.
Yes.
And yeah, around 3,000 kilometers is about right. But if they
That far in the ocean.
managed, yes, if they managed to get across the ocean, they could have settled all that way along, all the Polynesian islands. So generally people kind of guess that it's South Americans that were the precursors of the Polynesians. But, and here's the big but, geographically and with the changes caused by ice ages and what have you, there may have been other lands, and maybe the lands were more connected at that time, and we just don't realize it. So they could very easily have just walked there.
Yeah, but this wasn't that long ago. This was they only reached it about like 1,500 years ago.
That we have recorded.
The Ice Age ended like 20,000 years ago.
See, my problem with a lot of archaeological truth is when you go and delve into it, they admit, no, it's a theory that they have, but it's taught like it's absolute fact. They don't really know, and they guess a great deal.
Yeah.
So you start to wonder how much of what we know of as true is true. Like we know for fact that humans came from a single stock in Central Africa somewhere. Bullshit. We've now found that's not true. So, but it was taught as fact for like ages. It's just not true. So, you know.
They keep on doing it.
Of course they do.
Teach you as if it's fact, but they've actually got no idea. That guy was just using his imagination when he picked up that rock.
Well, maybe even we can be generous and say a fairly educated theory, but nevertheless a theory. It's not fact until you have hardcore proof. We know the pyramids exist. Why? Well, we have hardcore proof, and you can go and poke it with a stick. So they exist. Okay, that's fact.
But we still don't have solid theories about how they crafted the stones and moved the stones.
Exactly. So, do they exist? Yes. Does Stonehenge exist? Yes. You can go and poke it with a stick. Who built it and why? We have theories. They say it was connected to the Druids, but quite a lot of the more modern theories seem to indicate that the Druids came much later. Stonehenge was built by somebody even before them.
Yeah.
And the problem you have is you can't carbon date rock. Rock's rock. You know, it I can carbon date wood because it's carbon and tell you when the tree was grown
Yeah.
because it's different. But you can't do that to a rock because even if I carve a rock now, the rock's old.
Yeah, the rock is already 30 years old.
Ghetto, hello. Have you got a comment for us, sir? No, no comment. Nevertheless, but yeah, these are the problems we have. And one of the big problems that also came up, which I found very interesting, for example, with the South American structures, why do we never find their cities? Well, there's a really good logical reason. They only built very important buildings out of stone. Everything else was built out of wood, which was much easier and much more abundant. But because the Amazon jungle is very hot and very wet, it takes very little time for wooden structures to just disappear. They break down very fast. So we can find the temples in the jungle, but finding the cities is really, really, really hard because the jungle grows back so fast and the houses would have left almost no remains. So what are you looking for? You know, in something the size of the Amazon jungle, how do you find evidence of a couple of pots which might have survived? You know, it's really, really difficult. And that's the problem. And now, of course, with LiDAR, they're having lots more success because they can see changes in levels of ground where humans have disturbed the existing original ground. So where there was a road, you can now see the straight lines using LiDAR. So now we're realizing that what we thought was just vast empty jungle had crap loads of roads through it at some stage. And by using the intersections of the roads, we found several more temples which were previously hidden under the jungle. So all the theories that we did have about the Olmecs, the Mayans, and the Aztecs are rapidly changing as we discover more. And that's kind of the point, isn't it?
Oh.
Now, along with that, of course, we have a number of other interesting stories to cover. So, jumping across to
Based
the...
Australia now.
Yes, to the Mimi. So, the Aboriginal Australians speak of them. They are a very thin kind of fairy that likes to live within rock crevices. But because they are very thin, strong winds can even damage them. So they would stay within their rocks and ground. They had a human form, and according to the Aboriginal folklore, it was the Mimi that made the first rock paintings before the Aboriginal people came to Northern Australia. They taught the Aboriginal people how to paint and how to hunt and cook kangaroos, and Mimis are considered to be generally harmless but mischievous. So they were the original inhabitants of Australia, according to the Aborigines. But then where did the Aborigines come from?
Oh.
There you go. We're not sure about that either. But nevertheless...
What is this dream time?
Okay, now the dream time is very interesting. So we will get into that when we do creation mythologies in proper. But essentially, before before you had this world, you had everything in a sort of godlike realm, if you will, known as the dream time, and the precursors of everything, which were mostly like archetypal animal spirits and gods. Sometimes that's the same thing. They decided to create not only the world, but then inhabit it with varying things. And they tried a couple of different things that didn't work all that well, and eventually settled on humans, which they managed to make through various different means. So the
I
dream
got that
time,
from reading. Yeah, it says the Mimi was between the physical and spiritual world during the dream time, and
yes,
acted as a guardian of our natural world.
yes. So a number of the beings were put in to live in this world, but they sort of have origins and connections to the originating time, which is the real world, and we are a reflection thereof. And eventually, all of this will go back into the dream time.
Okay, so they were teaching actually skills to the indigenous people. They were teaching them painting and how to hunt and cook.
Yes,
Kangaroo meat.
which is
Okay.
something that is ascribed to the Nanahi and to a number of fairies in varying other cultures. The dwarves are said to have taught mining to people. A number of them were said to have given fire to people. So there are different versions in different cultures, and some of them can be very, very nice. Some of them
Okay.
not so.
Yeah, I see that even the Mimi was sometimes also mischief
Yes,
and pranks on
the
humans.
fairies almost worldwide are known to enjoy a good joke, sometimes at your expense. And if you don't laugh and get angry, then they get angry and start being nasty.
Oh.
So, yeah, you've got to sort of take them in a certain way. But they love to party, they love to drink, they like to dance, and they are known for that all over the world. So, everywhere speaks of them in much the same way. And in Aboriginal folklore, you've got these wise, helpful, friendly, music-loving creatures that were there before people and taught them and helped them. So yeah, absolutely. Now we're almost done.
Oh, so they were really thin people or things, mystical
Yes,
creatures.
very small and light. Now, of course, we've spoken of two major types of fairy. And world over, we see this distinction. And we see it again among the Nordic people, where you have the Dokalfar, the dark alpha, or dark elves, and the Ljosalfar, the light elves. So you absolutely do get two varieties. And the Ljosalfar come from Alfheim, and they are more beautiful than people. And the Dokalfar come from Svartheim, and they are dark and often ugly. Now, if you remember, we spoke of the Irish Tuatha De Danann and the Welsh children of Annwn. And here you see an echo of it, because the Ljosalfar are very much described the same as the children of Danu, whereas the dark elves, the Dokalfar, are spoken of very much as the children of Annwn. So you get the two different varieties, and the Ljosalfar are far prettier, but far less trustworthy. They are fairer than the sun to look upon, They're found written in the Prose Edda from the 13th century by Snorri Sturluson, as well as in the Hrafnagalda Orthins and varying other stories, shall we say, that come out. So your different types there will say, for example, that the Ljoss Alpha are taller, brighter, nicer, prettier, but can get very, very tricky. They live in
I think we should
Alpha,
call it what it is.
which is,
It's not stories.
well,
I'm so,
this seems to be the conclusion we shall reach.
I'm so sorry. I'm gonna have to leave for
Are you
now.
going? Oh, I'm sorry.
My painkillers are knocking me out. I need to
Oh
sleep.
dear. You're on painkillers. Why are you still not well?
It's my hip that's bothering me a lot.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it'll be okay. No, I'm trying to fight my sleep, but I can't do it.
Yeah, I know they do that.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, good drugs are after all, well, good drugs.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Not at all. You have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Thanks for hanging on as long as you have.
Yeah.
It's been great having you with us.
All right. Guys, have a good night and sleep well.
You too. Night night.
Bye.
You probably thought I was going in a different direction when I said they are not stories.
Well,
They are fairy tales.
they are fairy tales, indeed. Fairy tales, indeed. But are they real or not? Well, we'll sum up at the end because there are issues. So here's the thing. In the Galfaginning, Ganglin, King Galfi in disguise, asked the enthroned figure of High, what other chief centers are there in the heavens outside of the Uthar-Brunner? And he responds that there are many fine places in heaven, including a place called Alfheim, or Elfhome, and that the Ljosalfar live in Alfheim, while the Dokalfar live underground in Svartheim, and look and behave quite unlike the Ljosalfar. The Ljosalfar are fairer than the sun, but the Dokalfar are blacker than pitch. Now, these varying stories imply that some are enchanting and some are not. It refers, of course, to another topic we're going to have to cover, which are the different realms according to different cultures, because there's quite a few. So these peoples are not spirits. They were never human. They are not animals, and they are not gods, nor ghosts. So the distinction is very clear. They live in their own realm but can visit ours. They absolutely do have magic. So there are a number of different realms in that regard where they live. Now, how to explain it? The problem really is that a lot of it's got confused up in stories with later Christianity. But essentially, if you go with the older stuff, the Dokalfar are like dwarfs. The Ljosalfar are elves, if you want to look at it that way. Though they are both referred to as elves or fairy. So the difference is that. The Ljosalfar or Hvitalfar, which are white elves, and then the Dokalfar or Svartalfar, they turn up in all the different stories. They are always able to use all kind of magic and are very quite powerful as well. But now here's the next interesting one, because we are going to jump to Asia in a culture far away from all of these ones which maybe possibly could have had influence on each other, and you will find that our descriptions are pretty much the same. So in the Philippines, you have the Dewata, which are described exactly the way dryads are described. Nature spirits or nymphs, guardians of mountains and forests and natural areas. And the stories of these come from, written even in Sanskrit, which is really quite ancient, and possibly come even from the Anito ideas way back when. So guardians of natures, they can appear in a number of different forms as suits them. They're neither good nor bad per se. They're not like one thing, like demons are evil, angels are good, end of story, finish. Elves can be like people, good or bad. It depends. And they can be quite nasty if you upset them. Leaving offerings for them is always a good idea, and we will go into that a little more in a bit. And we know that they have royal versions and lesser versions. So the sangre are the royal versions. The lesser ones, like the Anito, are invoked for protection, favor, blessings, and more. And the Encanto are more of a modernized version that are more like the elves of Europe. And you can see it in that Encanto comes from the Spanish enchanted. However, if we go on to the rather famous Aswang project, which looks into Filipino culture and mythology in quite a serious way, you have a number of different fairies. Some of them are tiny and ride birds. They are long-lived at the very least, possibly celestial. They are spoken as kind of elfy little things called Anitos, that is spoken of by the Tagalogs, which is one of the original native type people. They might look after the house just like brownies in some cases, but if you upset them, they can absolutely, it can go south fast. They love music in that regard. Now, some people, like the Batak, say they're a kind of spirit, which doesn't really fit always. The Tabanguwas from Palawan say that spirits are one type of creature and the invisible Dewatas are another kind, which they appear if they want to but can disappear when they want to. And they might have had a lot to do with the creation of human beings as well. And they come from a sort of celestial region alongside this world, which fits exactly to all kinds of other stories in other cultures, as we've seen. They are very much nature things, that we know. We have different stories as to what they look like, but they're humanoid at the very least. They can change their shape to all kinds of animals, so that definitely fits to the categories as we know it. We know that when they want to be, they can be wonderful. All the stories that I've found have shown that when they want to be nasty, they are very, very nasty. So you've got to be careful. For some strange reason, the influence of the Spanish in the Philippines meant that a huge number of these fairy type people are called Maria. Why? I don't know, but they're all called Maria something. But I suspect that's an affection that happened much later and doesn't come from the original stories by any mounts at all. But they are connected to animals, to nature. They can command animals, and if you piss them off, they can overrun your house with rats and wild pigs and all kinds of things. So yeah, let's conclude elves then. What can we actually say about them?
Did you say Merryweather?
No, Maria.
Maria.
Yes. It's kind of strange. But by and large, the main elves of just about every culture around the world, from China to Japan to Germany to Europe to Great Britain to the Americas, North and South, all describe these elves pretty much the same way. You get a number of different types. They're absolutely magical creatures that can shapeshift and be invisible. They live in realms alongside this one that nevertheless, to a certain degree, mimic this one, or we mimic them, depends on your viewpoint. They have... Well, they are difficult to describe simply because you get different kinds. They range from very short to taller than a person. They are absolutely humanoid, but they're either very ugly in some cases or way more beautiful, like too beautiful to be a person.
But always pale skin.
No. You get two schools of them. So either you get the pale ones or you get the dark ones. And that
Pointy
comes
ears.
up. Some have pointy ears. Not all are necessarily said to have pointy ears. It seems that the pointy ear thing might be a more modern addition. But not necessarily. It might also be a thing that came from the British Isles, that it's a British thing that they're pointy ears. Certainly, whether or not they have horns seems to be very much a affection of the Mediterranean area. The elves of the Middle Eastern area seem to have darker skin, but not black. Weirdly enough, the African elves have pale skin, which is quite strange. But they like to take half shapes. So instead of fully turning into something, they'll be like a person with bits of animal parts, because it seems to amuse them, though they can take a full change. Which makes it very... How do you describe somebody that can look like what he wants to? Bit difficult.
I've got a question.
Yes.
I'm not sure if it's a fairy or what it really is, or if it's actually related. Probably not related. But in Africa,
Yes.
Egypt,
Yes.
dog-faced humanoid.
The cyanocephalus. Well, not necessarily, but maybe. It doesn't...
Anubis.
Well, Anubis, of course, was a god. But the interesting thing is, remember when we did the whole shapeshifter thing, we talked about specifically that people who can change into an animal. Now, the cyanocephalus of Egypt were not shapeshifters. They had a static form that was human body, more hairy, dog's head. And that was their shape, that was their only shape. But a number of the Middle Eastern groups, including the Greeks, speak of them as a specific race that lived in the area some time ago. Not that they were fairy, not that they were spirits, not that they were gods, that they were just another race that happened to be dog-headed. Why? Not so clear. There are a number of races that are talked about by certain cultures that are said to be not quite the same as human. Elves are one of them. The cyanocephali are one of them. The jinn are one of them. And you start to wonder, were there other races on this planet that either are wiped out now or might come from a slightly parallel world? Because every culture has stories of them and insist that they are not spirits, they are not ghosts, they are not demons, they are not gods, they're another race. So yeah. Well, according to certain stories that I came across, the Egyptians said that they all were killed off in the varying wars that happened where they lived because they weren't a particularly violent people.
They got genocided.
Pretty much. Now, we know for fact that the area to that side, mostly around Turkey type place, was originally the home of the Sumerians, who were nomads, and they were pretty tough. They conquered a lot of the known world, but at a point, after they wiped out most of the local people and took over a large area, the Scythians came in, and the Sumerians were mostly wiped out, but the few that weren't wiped out fled north into what are now Slavic regions. So the remainder of the Sumerians are now not in their original homeland, but in the Slavic lands, and the Scythians ruled those areas for centuries. And they were an absolute terror. Now, the Sumerians were said to have taken a number of kingdoms down, including that of the cyanocephali. And that was mentioned by the Egyptians and the Greeks. Don't know.
So you mentioned a couple of times that they are evil and stuff like that. The most evil creature probably ever on Earth, humans.
Well, yes. You see, at the end of the day, when you go back and look at the stories of these wicked, wicked beings, they were only wicked after they were severely bothered and disturbed, which sounds not so much like wickedness as self-defense. And in many of the cases, the people that provoked them were us. We know that the Nunahei left after a fight with the Cherokee, who killed most of them. We know that the Moon Eye people fled when too many people started moving into their areas. We know that it was the Milesians which drove the Tuatha De Danann out of where they originally lived. And the Milesians really did exist. They're a real human people. So if they drove the Tuatha out, that they had to get to Ireland, clearly we have a track record of slaughtering fairy. Just saying.
Slaughtering everything.
Pretty much.
According to the Christian Bible, the very first person that was born killed his own brother.
Well, yes.
Wow.
And the very first person created had his wife banished into demonhood because she wouldn't do as she was told.
Wow.
So, yeah, not a great track record for humanity, let's be fair. But what do you think? Fairies, real or completely fake?
I'll say this: most fairies are fake.
I think that's a fair answer. Jay, you've just joined us. Have you been listening and
Yeah.
lurking? So, fairies.
No. I just saw. This is so disappointing. How? Why? What happened? I see there's only 80 likes. There used to be at least like 2,000 or 1,000.
It's been a very quiet night. Almost
No,
nobody turned up.
But it's an interesting live stream.
Well, I thought it was a good one, but it seems that nobody likes to interact. It's very strange. I'll have like 20 people online, and it's one of you, and always the same people that send the likes and the gifts and the shares. And given that likes are, you see?
I've personally seen a fairy or something like that.
Okay, tell us about it.
Okay.
I
Little
don't know how
likes.
to explain it, cause like
Little likes.
me and my where we? Yeah, we were like in like you know, like I don't know where's this house, but like there's a lot of trees. It's like a farm.
Okay, that fits to the theory of fairies. Go on.
So then like we went into like this was a place with a lot of trees. We found this like huge hole, not too huge, but by the way, it wasn't my friend, it was my cousin. So we
Okay.
took like a long stick or something like that. I think it was just a rat or something because okay, but rats can't fly, so and then we like just stick the branch or whatever into the tree. Not that sounds weird when I say stick it into the and then like I'm pretty sure it was just a huge bug or something, but I think it was a fairy because after that it came out, it looked like a person, but like a stick figure or like something like that, but it didn't look like it. And it was just like my cousin got bit like on his hand. Then yeah,
Well, of course, that does fit to the proper description of the Tinkerbell style fairy, which are A, said to be blood drinkers and biters, B, are said to be very small with little wings, they fly, and quite vicious, and they live in hollow trees and forests and flower beds. So your description matches exactly one of the types of the fairy. So maybe you did.
What type of video games does your son play or whatever? Because I can see someone in the background with headphones.
At the moment, they are all doing terrible things to Minecraft. But they have a number of different games that they play, and they like to play together and link up. So they challenge each other and do all kinds of things, and then link up with people online in other places as well.
They can make
So,
a YouTube channel.
well, they could. But yes, Minecraft is the current flavor of the day. And they're challenging each other to build all sorts.
I had this weird dream like 5 years ago, like 6.
Okay.
Yo, I don't know what this is. I was at my auntie's farm. My niece or whatever was like standing by the tree, and then like they jumped at me, just like jumped at me like that, and the eyes were white, and I ran to my room, and then I went to bed with my mother. Then I woke up, and then Michael Myers was next to me. And then
Okay,
I ran.
that sounds like a severely sugar enhanced dream.
And now I'm traumatized because Jason Voorhees was also chasing after me.
Well, that's an interesting thing. Were you with us for the serial killer Halloween live? Oh, you missed it. Oh, that is so sad because that covered a whole lot of different things, including modern urban legends like Jason Voorhees and so on, that have become urban legends, but some of them, and I'm not going to tell you which because you can go and watch the video on YouTube that I put up when I put it up. It's not up yet, which covers all of that because some of them are based on true stories.
Really, something wrong with me, mentally because I like gory videos or movies.
Well, you're not alone in that. A great many people do, which probably means you would enjoy the original fairy tales, which are very not Disney appropriate. A great many of the original fairy tales are really gross.
Dun 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 dun.
So, yeah, without a doubt. If you go and look at the original happenings, you start to wonder who the real villains are, because the so-called heroes can really get out of hand. So there is that, I will say.
But
You're-
I love to see people like getting shot or getting stabbed and then gushing blood, and it's like a thrill to me.
Well, as long as you've never felt the urge to actually do it, because that would be bad.
No, never.
Well, that's all right then. Enjoying a good horror is one thing, but severe gore. What was that movie? It was rated as the most graphic ever made.
I heard,
And,
and the director actually went to prison because it looked.
well, no, one of the actors admitted years later that there's a scene, okay, in which the heroine, in suitably skimpy clothing, of course, because it was that kind of B movie, falls into like this pond type thing, or she's thrown in, and then all of these skeletons and half-rotted corpses rise up around her, and she screams and screams and screams, because that was the dumping pool for the cannibals that were chasing them or whatever. So, but they admitted afterwards that they couldn't find decent, realistic fake skeletons, so they used real ones. And the actress only realized when they popped up with her in the pond, and so her screams in the movie are real ones when she suddenly realized what she was in the water with. Cannot remember the name of the movie now, but it really, really
but
was terribly gross.
You should try The Walking Dead. There's some gruesome stuff in there. I saw this. Oh yeah, I had like a group. Like you would send like true gruesome stuff that actually happened, like videos from the dark web. Yo. I saw
Yeah, the
stuff.
dark web is not a place to go visiting.
No, like he went, so my phone is safe, but not his. I saw this video, like they cornered this guy. The things I saw, they were like boom, 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 and he was like, please. And I saw another video from the cartel. They ripped his face off with a
Oh
truck,
yes,
with a damn truck.
absolutely. I have seen a couple of things out there that were truly, truly, truly awful. So yeah, it's not a place to visit lightly. You shouldn't do it, especially not while young. It will scar you for a very long time. So don't do that,
No,
children.
I don't get traumatized easily.
I don't know. I always said that, but I've seen a few things out there that traumatized me.
Okay, I've seen like one thing that like made me for like 2 days, but then I forgot about it after. You know the Isri and the Palest
The what?
Palestine.
Ah, yes.
Yes, and I saw like there was a bombage, and I saw a baby without a head.
Oh, yes. Well, I can tell you now that I worked as a crime reporter for a good 20 years, and I
Tell me
saw
what you heard.
I saw a few things in real life that would absolutely make you wiggle. So, not the greatest of things.
Yes, I reached level 8. Fuck yeah. Oh, sorry. So happy.
Careful with the language, always spanks you.
Don't
But
spank
nevertheless,
me.
we have done elves, and for our yes, we have a question.
Fairy godmother, analogy or fairy tale or yeah.
Well, interesting that you ask that. The original fairy godmother comes from Persian stories of the elves. Now, according to the Persian understanding, we are linked to one of the other beings. So you will have linked to you an angel or an elf or a jinn. So the Peri, your personal elven counterpart, so to speak, the other you, the elven you in that world, is your connection, your guardian in a way, your fairy guardian, like your guardian angel or fairy godmother. So it sort of comes from that. The other influence on that story might be that if you are good to them, the more powerful fairy will help and guide you. And a lot of stories talk about heroes and especially heroines who wouldn't. Okay, who's making that noise? Okay,
Not
so
me.
the the heroines who wouldn't be that powerful or good fighters gain the aid of a particular elf or fairy who becomes their guardian, hence their godmother. Because many of the fairies encountered are often female. The men seem to only turn up where there's something nasty to do.
Can I
But
tell you
the
something?
Well, apparently, godmothers aren't really. They're not always good. I mean,
no, they're
there's
not.
evil fairy godmothers, wicked fairy godmothers.
Yes. And it depends on how you treat them or whether or not you do things the way they want you to do them. So if you don't, they can turn on you and become quite nasty. And a good example of that would be Baba Yaga in the Slavic mythology. And it's like we said in the last one, when they are good, they are very, very good. But when they
There's
are
two types
bad,
of Baba Yagas. There's the John Wick Baba Yaga, and there's the Baba Yaga.
yeah, that's modern though. We're talking the original mythologies.
Oh, can I tell you something?
Yes.
You see, my cousins, they're not Christian. They're Muslim, but I'm Christian.
Okay.
He's a boy cousin. He's about like 13 or 12. He's 21 or 31 reversed today.
Oh, okay.
I don't know when was this, but he got like possessed by a jar. You know that word, the jar.
Yes. The jinn.
And you're speaking, yes, and you're speaking like languages that we don't know about. He was like,
Well, that's one of the things that they say fairy can do. Now, we talk of it as possession in some
So look, I'm getting
cultures,
scared. Like it's so
but in
turned
other
up my whole
cultures they say it's not possession but enchantment, which I suppose technically amounts to much the same thing. They take control of you.
gotta talk my homies. And you expect me to live through that. Look at this.
You
I'm
see?
able to like,
So, absolutely, that's a trait of the fairy, which implies that the jinn are a kind of fairy. Just as in Europe you have the Alfa, in Britain you have the elves, in the Americas you have the
elves.
Nunahi,
hell
and
is a
in the Middle
Nunui?
East you say again,
What the hell is a Nunui?
a Nunahe. The
Yeah, what's
elves in
that?
Cherokee mythology.
Okay, this is strange. Yeah, fairy godmothers. Apparently, they also kidnap babies.
Oh,
Elves are known to do that. It's a thing. And they often will leave a
Camels.
changeling in its place.
Bro, why? If
And they
if
cast
an elf is running,
curses and they play tricks on humans for their own
Yes.
amusement.
Yes.
if an elf is chasing me, I'm just gonna kick that thing like it's a rugby ball. Pa! I'm gonna call Cheslin Kobe. Let him kick that thing.
Well, running away and avoiding them is generally considered to be a very good thing. Keeping cold iron on you turns up in just about every country and culture. So having cold iron will, and when I say cold, I mean cold forged. So
I have
shaped just by
Oi.
taking plain iron and beating it into shape.
How strong
hell?
are they actually?
Who's gonna beat it?
Apparently, they can grant wishes.
Oh, wait,
Some.
what?
The,
Yes, I want some wishes.
only the most powerful and the greatest of them, the sorcerers. So in Islamic view, that would be the Marid. In many of the other cultures, it would be the high elves and the royal elves that have that kind of power. The smaller ones don't.
You have to be very strong to be able to grant wishes.
Well,
Joseph.
yes,
I mean,
you're a powerful sorcerer.
can I tell you something?
Yes?
We have this guy that like works at our house. He like cleans our yard and all. He
Okay.
gets 200 rand per day for pay. And my dad didn't have like money, he only had card. So my dad gave him some Zol. That guy, he was like, Zol, really? Then my father showed him and he was like, oh, yeah. He smoked that thing finished. He couldn't see. He was asking, where's my bicycle? Where's my bicycle? My father said, there's it in front of you. He said, no, didn't take it? I'm like, I'm standing there. I'm next to you,
Well,
this guy.
maybe that's a good lesson for you.
I'm never gonna. Okay, maybe I will once or twice.
So, a genie is not a fairy, right?
Well, a genie. I'm sort of torn in two ways. I think it is.
Isn't a genie like a type of jinn?
A genie is the anglicization of jinn because the singular for jinn is jinni. We get the word genie from it. It
Is that I
seems
think
not
if you say the word-
exactly. They're another race. Just like the Alpha are another race. They're not human, but they're not spirits, ghosts, gods, or anything like that.
They are like gods, are they not? They're extremely powerful. I mean, they can also shapeshift. They can shapeshift other things into things. Different things.
They
like a
can
monkey,
be.
an elephant.
They can be powerful sorcerers. Not all of them are. And the rules certainly are a little different. So all of them seem to be able to slip between their realm and ours. That's sort of a standard. But not all of them have that much power. Some do. So it varies.
But they're only powerful when they're locked up.
I'm gonna go watch some Pinterest. So
When they're chained.
I don't know.
and controlled by master.
If you mean I can use their power if I've got them controlled, yes. Because
I'm gonna
if
go
they're
now.
not... Okay. Sleep well.
Are you gonna be sad?
We're always sad when we lose our friends. But we are nearing the end of the life, so...
We are at the end of the live. What are you talking about?
Well, we're finishing up with the last of the stories.
Yeah, we're gonna say goodnight now.
But nevertheless, you are quite correct. If they are not bound, they won't do things for you. And why should they?
Yeah.
If they are bound, they will do things for you, but God help you if they get free. Because then they're going to be pissed. You see, one of the things that you never hear too much about is the after. Yes, you got your 3 wishes. Great. What happened after? Did it come back and say, you remember me?
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I didn't think of that.
Yeah,
There's a price to pay.
exactly that. And a great many of the fairy stories show how people cunningly tricked the fairy and got great things from them. But afterwards, it went really, really badly. And yeah, it wasn't a good idea at all.
They probably didn't tell you what's going to happen afterwards.
Well, that was the problem. So, like, there's an amazing story that comes from England. So, not just Great Britain, but the English stories, where a farmer manages to capture one of the elves and becomes hugely rich and successful and important and all the rest of it. But at the end, the elf gets away. And the poor farmer comes home, all the gold is turned to leaves, his farm is destitute, he has nothing left, and his fine clothes are rags, and he's left as laughing stock and a beggar by the side of the road for people to spit on, because he didn't keep his word to the elf and he was cruel to it.
Would you make a wish if they tell you that something bad might happen, but they're not going to tell you what's going to happen?
No, I probably wouldn't. I kind of believe that there's no such thing as a free lunch. And the more free a thing is, the more you're going to pay later in ways you didn't know.
What's that story? The woman wishes for another child, and then her firstborn dies.
Exactly that. So she got exactly what she asked for, but not at all what she wanted.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a thought. Nevertheless, that is elves for you. And beautiful? Certainly. Amazing? Yes. But terrifying and frightening in a great
Are they not
many
really
ways.
forest creatures?
Kind of yes, kind of no. It seems that they are more than just that. Some of them, the lesser ones, are no more than that. But the more powerful ones, hard to say. They have powers. So, make a guess and hope you're right. But I can't tell you for certain. And that, I'm afraid, is all I have for tonight. It was good. It was fun. And I'm very glad that you were on with me. I enjoyed it immensely. But I do have to say goodnight. And
Yeah, that's getting late. I'm also getting tired.
I will say to you, as I always do, sleep deep, sleep sweet, but sleep with one eye open. And keep a piece of cold forged iron near you, because There are things out there that go bump in the night, and they might go bump for you.
I'll go bump. Cheers.
Good night.
Have a good night.
You too.